Hey guys, I'm back with another video slash rant on a book I recently read that I got a lot out of. It's called Someday Is Today by Matthew Dix. I do all my reading digitally. The reason for that is because I used to buy lots of books, and moving around and living in share houses or one-bedroom apartments just meant that eventually I ran out of room for storing books. So I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So now I just use iBooks on my iPad mainly for reading. I have a Kindle as well. But enough about that. I wanted to just sort of talk about some of the stuff that I learned and picked up reading this book. I'm trying to read a lot of like development and self-help books at the moment, just because like my mantra for 2025 is I want to be like 1% better every day. I just want to try and continue to improve myself, my well-being, my mental health, my physical health, my productivity, my work, my relationships, like all of that stuff. And this is a productivity book that's kind of looking into what stops people and what stops us, whether it's like in work or just creativity or whatever it is, from just starting to do something. And I think like starting it off is this quote from the book that people who wait for the ideal circumstance in order to create usually die before their dreams are realized. And I think this spoke to me just so much, because I feel like for a lot of my life and my early career, and even as a teenager who was creative at school, there was always excuses that I would make for why I couldn't start a project or why I couldn't put something out, whether it was anxiety or self-doubt or just like, oh, I don't have time, or at the moment I'm way too busy, I don't have time for that. And basically what I'm realizing through a lot of this reading is that if you spend your whole life saying I don't have time and I'm too busy, then yeah, you will die before you get to do the things that you want to do. And I think sometimes it's hard to like really prioritize things, especially in our society at the moment where like there's a cost of living crisis, things are really expensive, we really feel like we need a lot of money, and we probably do. So then a lot of our time is taken up on work, which is fine. But I think what this book really honed into was this idea that, yeah, if there's something that you want to do, you need to choose to make time for it, because time doesn't just magically open up for you if you need it. Like, we are the only people who can control our time. So if we continue to use time as an excuse not to do the things we want to do, whether they are work-related, creative-related, or whatever they might be, if we continue to make excuses, we never get them done. Which kind of leads into like the second key learning I got out of this book, which is like accepting that, particularly in creativity, but anything, is that not everything you put out there into the world will be good. In fact, some of it will probably be bad, but it is better to start and do something and put stuff out there consistently than to not start at all. I really loved this quote. It's, we must be willing to fail again and again and again in order to find our way to goodness and sometimes greatness. I have been a massive perfectionist in the past, where like I want everything to be like at 100% quality or more if possible before I put it out into the world. And when you actually break that down, all of that, at least for me, is to do with anxiety and a fear of being judged by other people. Like, I don't want to put something out there and someone goes, oh, that's not good, that's not great. But I think what this book tries to like drill through to you is that failure is like a necessity to reach goodness or greatness. And striving for perfect every time is an unreasonable expectation for yourself. This idea of progress instead of perfection, like put your work out there, make it imperfect, but just you putting it out there puts you so much further ahead of anyone else who is just not doing it, you know? And it brings me to this third quote that I really loved in this book, which is that almost no one is doing anything perfectly. Join the crowd. Like, I actually think now that anyone who's like putting stuff out there that you like, you might look at them and be like, wow, they're so awesome. Like, how do they get so good? I actually think those people are just consistently putting stuff out. And the book is so right. Like, no one is doing stuff perfectly. Like, pretty much everything I put up now, I'm like, this could be so much better. And I don't think it's an encouragement to not do your best, but I think it's just understanding that like you are better off just being consistent as opposed to getting everything 100% from day one. Like, I think creativity and work, it's all about like incrementally getting better day by day, incrementally improving, and each time you get a little bit better. That's what I think it is. And sometimes you will fail. Another quote I heard recently, not related to this book, but I want to talk about it at some point, is that sometimes it's worth reminding yourself of this. I am human, therefore I will fail. Like, failure is part of the human existence. Failure is part of being human. So trying to run from failure will only lead to stagnation, I think. And it is really hard to let go of the ego around your work and your perfectionism. It's really hard to do that. I still struggle with it, but then it's just like stopping caring about what other people are going to say, because at least you're out there doing it. And another great quote I got from this one is about like friction in productivity. So it says, people allow small, arbitrary barriers to stop them from doing what is right for them. I think this applies to like everything in life. Like, I have done so much work in the last 12 months trying to like remove friction from my day-to-day life, make the things that I want to do easier to do and make the things that I don't want to do harder to do. I think you will always find an excuse for everything if you need it. Like, procrastination is rife. Like, find these barriers of friction to getting the stuff done that you want to do and eliminate them. Spend the time eliminating them now, because they're going to keep creating friction for you, and that friction will just get bigger and bigger. And finally, this idea of like recognizing the value of small quantities of time, but also just recognizing how you manage your own time. Honestly, for a while I was in this slump of just not being able to manage time, losing track, just being really poor with like getting stuff done on time. There are some really great quotes here that I like. This one here, which says, remember, when you say you don't have enough time, you're actually saying that there are other things more important to you. On your list of priorities, other items were higher on the list than the thing you didn't have time to complete. And I completely agree with this. Like, think about it like this. Like, we often say like, oh, I don't have time to do this creative project. But then for me, like, I would sit on TikTok for like an hour every night, which I guess you could argue is 7 hours a week of just wasting my life on TikTok. Like, I've now deleted TikTok. I've had it deleted for nearly a year now, and I do not miss it at all. But I think it's just about reclaiming that time, reclaiming the time. Like, maybe like instead of opening TikTok on the couch and just scrolling for 15 minutes, you open Duolingo for 15 minutes. Suddenly, now you're learning that language because you're putting the time into it. And it's like, it's okay to be like, I want to spend my time today on TikTok, or I want to spend an hour scrolling through my phone. Like, I don't think we have to beat ourselves up from that, but it's like understanding that your time is going somewhere. We all have free time. We all have extra time. And it's about finding those pockets, finding where they're like leaking, and then filling that leak and finding new things to do with that time. I think that kind of leaves it there. I've been reading a lot of books, and I'd love to do some more kind of productivity videos talking about what I've been learning and how I'm applying it to my own life. But I'd love to know what people think in the comments as well. So please let me know. And yeah, we'll speak soon.